In the early hours of yesterday, this occurred.
We're right next to the key bridge.
What the fuck?
And the result was 20 missing and a huge economic hole. The container ship MV Dali, a gigantic vessel 300 meters long and about 100,000 tons, lost power and collided against one of the support pillars of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The impact was so devastating that the bridge collapsed in a matter of moments, transforming the urban landscape and leaving the city in a state of shock. Rescue teams were immediately mobilized to the disaster site. The United States Coast Guard, along with Baltimore firefighters, initiated an intensive search and rescue operation looking for possible survivors on the cargo ship and among the bridge debris. Meanwhile, the loss of the Baltimore bridge caused immediate chaos in the city's traffic. With the main transport artery cut off, thousands of vehicles were diverted, causing massive congestion. Local authorities had to implement traffic contingency plans to minimize the impact. The investigation into the accident began immediately. The United States Maritime Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board were called to investigate the causes of the accident. The first indication suggests that a failure in the propulsion system of the MV Dali may have been the cause of the disaster. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, better known as the Baltimore Bridge, is a vital structure for the city and the region. Erected between 1972 and 1977 by renowned engineer Francis Scott Key, the bridge extends for 1,200 meters over the Patapsco River. It is a vital artery for the city of Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States, being a crucial route for more than 11 million vehicles and facilitating the flow of more than $80 billion per year in trade. The bridge has served thousands of residents of the Baltimore metropolitan area for decades. The authorities assured that a full investigation will be carried out with the participation of infrastructure engineers to assess the conditions of the bridge before the accident. The operators of the cargo ship Dali issued a distress call moments before the accident, informing that the vessel had run out of power. Despite this, the ship continued to move towards the bridge span at an alarming speed, traveling at 8 knots, the equivalent of approximately 15 km/h. The ship hit the bridge pillar with an impressive force. The impact resulted in the collapse of the span, which fell into the water in seconds. An audio was also posted showing conversations of the police before the incident, in the audio stating that they should stop car traffic at one point, and soon after another police officer states that the entire bridge fell and cannot reach the other side. Listen.
C-13 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
Simple dispatch is direct.
That's correct.
Fish time.
The accident resulted in 2 people rescued and another 6 missing, presumably dead. All were part of a team that was repairing the bridge. Some vehicles managed to escape by a margin of seconds, and the police believe that the workers are the only people who fell into the water. The ship is owned by Grace Ocean Private Limited, based in Singapore. The company stated that all crew members, including the 2 pilots, were accounted for and there were no reports of injuries. Thanks to the warning issued by the ship, the authorities were able to limit vehicle traffic on the bridge span. In addition, the accident occurred at 1:30 local time, long before the busy morning peak hour. The bridge designer highlighted that large structures over maritime terminals should be designed to minimize damage in case of collision. It is evident that the pier protection in this case was inadequate, he said. A pier or a bridge column could never withstand the impact of a large ship. They should be protected from a collision, he added. It is clear that the pier did not withstand the force of the impact, causing its rupture and the subsequent collapse of the steel reinforcements and the reinforced concrete superstructure. The collapse of the bridge will likely create a logistical nightmare for months, if not years, in the region, disrupting ship traffic at the port of Baltimore, a major logistical point. The accident will also complicate cargo and passenger traffic. The port is a major transportation hub on the east coast of the United States. The bridge crosses the Patapsco River, which cargo ships use to reach Chesapeake Bay, and then the Atlantic Ocean. The Dali was going from Baltimore to Colombo in Sri Lanka, sailing under the Singapore flag, according to marine traffic data. The President of the USA expressed his intention to travel to Baltimore as soon as possible and stated that he hopes the federal government will assume all the cost of rebuilding the bridge. In the global trade scenario, the collapse of the bridge in Baltimore will likely not have a major effect. This is because the city's port is not a crucial point for container ships. However, the port facilities are more important when it comes to goods such as agricultural equipment and automobiles. However, lessons can be learned and improvements can be made after the accident. He suggested the use of cameras and bridge sensors to track when a cargo ship goes off course and communicate with traffic lights and gates at the bridge entrances. I think our mission now is to learn from this failure and learn at all levels. The situation is so complicated that 3 different salvage operations are occurring simultaneously, each with its own priorities and challenges. The first salvage operation involves the ship itself, the MV Dali. The ship suffered significant damage, including a bridge that fell on its bow. In addition, the ship is stranded at the front and its cargo collapsed. The ship's salvage operation was granted by the federal government to Resolve Marine, who will focus on this task. The second salvage operation involves the removal of the bridge. The bridge needs to be removed not only from the ship, but mainly from the main naval channel. There are several options available for this, including dragging the bridge out of the channel. However, the arrival of the necessary equipment for this task will be a challenge. The bridge salvage operation is being carried out by Donjon under the supervision of the Army Corps of Engineers. The third salvage operation involves the bridge itself, specifically the sections that are not in the water and that are not on the ship. This is a problem for the Maryland Department of Transportation, which is working with a company called Scansa to handle this issue. These 3 salvage operations are occurring simultaneously, and this raises an important question: who is in charge? Salmer Kagano suggests that a single person should be designated to be in charge of all 3 salvage operations. This person would be responsible for resolving any conflicts that arose between the 3 companies involved in the salvage operations and for developing a timeline for the situation. He also highlights the importance of being careful during these salvage operations, especially in relation to the environment. He cites the salvage of the Golden Ray in Brunswick, Georgia, as an example of a salvage operation that became a cluster of epic proportions. He suggests that the VB-10,000, which is available for a heavy lift, may not be necessary in this case. Finally, Kagano emphasizes the importance of having someone in charge who can make decisions and coordinate the salvage operations. He mentions his experience as a firefighter and the importance of the incident command system, where a single person is in charge of a fire scene. He suggests that the captain of the port of Baltimore could be a good choice for this position. The situation in Baltimore is complex and requires careful coordination among various parties. The designation of a single person to be in charge of all 3 salvage operations could be an effective way to ensure that the situation is resolved efficiently and safely. There are many opinions on the matter. There are people saying that this was clearly a cyber attack on the bridge, but the authorities deny it and said there was no indication that it was a deliberate or intentional act. Other people raised the question that just as car drivers are held accountable for damage to their cars, companies should repair the damage caused by their ships. However, these are just third-party opinions. From the architectural point of view, the question arises: why did only one affected point compromise the entire structure of the bridge? The bridge was not designed to withstand the impact of a 100,000-ton cargo ship. This raises important questions about safety standards and design in large structures. Engineers claim that this happened on this scale due to everything being interconnected, there being no ways to kind of turn off parts of the bridge as there are in other structures. Analyzing images, I could not perceive systems of protection against impacts of vessels in cases like this. There are 4 parallel structures of signaling and monitoring. The bridge had a truss structure in the shape of an arch that supported stays that made the structuring of the concrete lines. Already in the public view, many internet users raised the question of having tugboats to assist in the displacement of such large ships. Now tell me, what is your opinion on the case? What could they do to prevent, or what can they do from now on? Thank you for your attention. This was the story of the Baltimore Bridge. If you liked it, on the channel we have several videos about mega constructions, so subscribe and watch this video on how sea bridges are built. Still, many questions remain unanswered. How could such a vital structure be so vulnerable to a single point of failure? Were the existing safety measures sufficient? And most importantly, how can we prevent such disasters from happening in the future? These are questions that need to be addressed to ensure the safety of our critical infrastructures. This is the Build Hub, an engineering and mega construction channel. Subscribe for more.